It's debate night in Michigan. Former Congressman Mike Rogers says he will return to Washington and get America back on track.
The most expensive vehicle to operate in Michigan in 2024 is your grocery cart, thanks to the Democrats in Washington, D.C.
Congresswoman Elissa Slotkin promises to expand Michigan's middle class.
The prices are too high on lots of things. Groceries, gas.
What we try and do is attack specific costs that are still a huge part of people's budget.
Tonight, for the first time, they take the stage together. At issue, inflation to immigration, EVs to the economy. Who shares your values and your hopes for our country? The stakes could not be higher. Good evening from the News Nation studios in Washington. I'm your host, Leland Vitter. Control of the United States Senate and the White House run through Michigan. The next 60 minutes will reshape the race. Our moderator for tonight's debate is News 8 anchor and veteran political analyst Rick Alvin. Tonight's debate is being broadcast from Escanaba to Detroit, Benton Harbor to Mackinac Island. We're streaming online and across the country on News Nation. Before we get to the questions, let's review the debate rules. Mr. Rogers and Ms. Slotkin, you will each have 60 seconds for an opening statement. You will also have 60 seconds to answer a question. For your rebuttals, you will each have 30 seconds. Rick will alert the candidates when time is up. Each candidate will also have 60 seconds for a closing statement. And now live from Wood TV 8 in Grand Rapids, it's debate night in Michigan.
Thanks, Leland, and welcome to our candidates, and thank you for being here, and thanks to everybody for viewing. We encourage all the folks watching tonight to let us know your thoughts on X by using the hashtag #MISenateDebate. It's also where you can find the source material used in developing tonight's questions. As per our agreements with the candidates, each will get a 60-second opening statement. A coin flip determined that Congresswoman Slotkin, you will go first. Thank you for being here. You have 60 seconds.
Great. Thanks for having me. Thanks to Wood TV for hosting us. I'm Elissa Slotkin. I'm a third-generation Michigander and the proud Congresswoman from Michigan's 7th District. My life in national security actually began on 9/11. Happened to be in New York City on my second day of school when 9/11 happened. Got recruited by the CIA, did 3 tours in Iraq alongside our military, and came back and worked for 2 presidents, one Democrat, one Republican, proudly, because I believe that service should be nonpartisan. I'm running for the U.S. Senate because I believe we must enhance and strengthen the middle class. Michigan invented the middle class. That means jobs with dignity, and it means bringing down the costs that are eating a hole in people's pocketbooks. I'm really glad we're having this debate tonight. There are some real differences between me and my opponent, but the good news is we both have records. I have 5 years in the U.S. Congress. Mr. Rogers had 20 years as an elected politician. So we'll be able to see very clearly not just what we say we're going to do, but what we've actually done. And I think it's important because we have big differences on the middle class, on costs, and on a whole bunch of other issues. Looking forward to it.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Congressman Rogers, thank you for being here, and it's your turn for 60 seconds of an opening statement, sir.
You know, thanks to Wood TV, it's great to be here. Mike Rogers, listen, I'm the youngest of 5 boys. Been in Michigan for over 50 years. My father was a shop teacher. My mom worked at the local Chamber of Commerce. I'm a husband. I'm a father. Both of my kids are fantastic. My daughter does occupational therapy. My son is just getting out of military service. When you look at the challenges that we have, a background like mine, fighting crime on the streets, my military service, I went to University of Michigan to get my ROTC, which is a little bit of a sticking point with my wife, who is a diehard Michigan State alumni. But we're getting over that, and we're getting through it. Why would we even get back into this business, if you will? It's because people, our families, are hurting in Michigan. They can't afford gas. They can't afford their electric bill. We have folks that are going to food pantries at the end of the month. We don't have to do it that way. The border, gas, EV mandates. We should talk about all of this evening.
Congressman, thank you. Let's get right to our questions. And here is where we start. Even as we speak, there is a major storm that is bearing down on Florida. FEMA's response to some of the disasters we've seen recently have come into question throughout the South and even right here in Michigan. FEMA denied disaster relief after a tornado that struck Portage and Kalamazoo County in May. Congresswoman Slotkin, How will you prioritize FEMA and make sure that they have the funds to meet the needs of the disasters that we're seeing nationwide? You have 60 seconds.
It's a great question. We've had actually 9 people die in the state of Michigan in the past year from 6 tornadoes that have touched down. 4 of them have been in the district that I represent, so I've been visiting those places. And you're right, sometimes we got federal assistance, sometimes we didn't. What is happening right now in North Carolina, and certainly what they're fearing in Florida, is terrifying. And we need to make sure that our disaster response is prepared for the next generation. We know we're going to have more storms. We're going to have stronger storms. We're going to have extreme weather. And FEMA needs to be prepared not just with the right personnel, but with enough cash to actually handle all those things. So for me, I was on the Homeland Security Committee. We oversaw FEMA's budget. We increased the money that they need per year, because we don't know where the next disaster is going to come from, but it's the responsibility of the federal government to deal with what we were dealing with here in Michigan, which is true disasters when there's a sort of an act of God that happens here in our state.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Congressman Rogers, it's the same question for you. How would you prioritize to make sure FEMA's got the money to meet the needs that are out there that we see on a regular basis? You have 60 seconds.
Yeah, FEMA is an important organization, has important work to do. One of the things that makes no sense in this last 6 years, if you will, is the fact that FEMA spent almost $700 million on housing illegals and now just told North Carolina they don't have enough money to take care of American citizens who are in desperate need in the middle of a disaster. So here you have a wide open border in our South, where the government, including my opponent, who have voted for funding of illegal immigrants, housing, food, phones, right? That comes out of the FEMA budget. And so, listen, this is something really, really important. If we're going to get spending under control in Washington, D.C., the last thing we need to be doing is spending money on illegal immigrants. Close the border, fix that problem, make sure that FEMA focuses on Americans and in their time of need.
Congressman, you have a 30-second rebuttal. Would you include in that a response to the Congressman's comments about the money from FEMA, please?
Sure. Look, I think no one is proud of what's going on at the southern border. But if the idea is that as a federal representative, the job we're both running to represent, we have to make sure that you have the resources needed for emergencies that are happening right now, today, in our state, in the state of Michigan. That means prioritizing funding. We have plenty of things to do on the border, and I hope we have an opportunity to get into that. I am the congresswoman in this state who has done more border security legislation. I'm a CIA officer who spent my life protecting the country. So we have to talk about the southern border. I hope we will get to that. But we also have to make sure FEMA is ready to address the problems here in Michigan now.
Thank you. Congressman Rogers, you have 30 seconds. And just if you can include, would you appropriate or be in favor of appropriating more money for FEMA?
Well, we have to get it right, first of all. Again, diverting that money for illegals coming across the border is an absolute non-starter for me, and it really should be a non-starter for most Michigan citizens. Again, my opponent voted and voted and voted to allow that money to go to illegal immigrants. And to say now that she has done more for the border, listen, 6 months of campaign ads don't make up for 6 years of really bad policy and bad judgment. We've got to fix the thinking back in Washington, D.C.
Now let's move on to the escalating tensions that are in the Middle East. Yesterday marked 1 year since the attacks on Israel. Israel continues daily attacks on Hamas and Hezbollah. Civilians have certainly been harmed in this. Iran has launched missiles into Israel. So with all of that, the question is, Congressman Rogers, is there a red line that Israel could cross that would lose your support?
You know, I think one of the big problems of people have been trying to be on both sides of this issue. We could have a ceasefire tomorrow if Hamas would give up the hostages. We have 4 Americans still there. Those Americans should be brought home. They were dragged out of their homes viciously on October 7th, dragged into the tunnels of Gaza. Right? So I think that right now, what we should do is support Israel getting this piece right, frame out a ceasefire based on getting the hostages out first. They need the ability to defend themselves. They're being attacked from the north. They're having attacks coming in from Gaza. And where all of this has started is in Tehran. And so if we don't contain Tehran, I'm telling you what, we'll have more trouble. We'll be more engulfed in the Middle East.
I want to give you 15 seconds. Is there a red line that Israel could cross that would lose your support?
Well, I mean, hypotheticals don't work in this. They have to defend themselves. You have to remember, Iran is coming at them through Hezbollah.
Okay.
Iran is coming at them through Hamas. Iran has attacked 200 installations across the Middle East since October 7th.
Congressman Slotkin, the same question to you. Is there a red line beyond which Israel could go that would lose your support?
Yeah, well, I was just at a memorial service yesterday for our one-year anniversary. It's still extremely raw. It's very personal here in Michigan, where people of all stripes have real personal connections to the region. For me, it's clear we need a ceasefire deal that brings the hostages home. Israel has the right to defend itself when people come and kill their citizens, rape women, shoot ballistic missiles at them. That is something that any country in the world has the right to do. But we can also say that we don't like seeing loss of life among civilians. Iran is now in a very interesting moment. Their big proxies have been killed or been wiped down in Hezbollah and Hamas, and they just fired a really strategic round of ballistic missiles, including hypersonic missiles. Israel has, again, the right to respond to that. But for me, what I won't do is I won't say that the United States should get back into a big land war in the Middle East. We spent 20 years in Iraq, and I served 3 tours there alongside the military. For me, I am not interested in having another 20-year war in the Middle East.
Same question to you, 15 seconds to answer. Is there a red line beyond which Israel can go that will lose your support?
Again, the idea that we would be sucked into putting American sons and daughters in there. My opponent was a very big supporter of the Iraq War. He was one of the leaders that got us into that war. I do not support another land war in the Middle East.
Congressman Rogers, you have a 30-second rebuttal to try to deal with all of these issues, including that red line.
Yeah, unfortunately, my opponent was wrong on all of this. The architect of the nuclear deal with Iran, the fact that she supported making sure that Saudi couldn't defend itself against the Houthis, taking the Houthis off the terrorist list, which, by the way, is now shooting at U.S. troops, including our Navy, in the Red Sea, making Iran have the capital by allowing them to sell oil into the market, has engulfed us in the Middle East. Bad decision, bad decision, bad decision. Not standing up to the fact that they're using their proxies across the Middle East, not only to attack Israel, our ally, but it's also to attack those 100 different installations around the Middle East.
Congresswoman Slotkin, you have a 30-second rebuttal.
I just want to say one thing. There's one of us on this stage who has been on the receiving end of Iranian rockets, Iranian mortars, Iranian IEDs in 3 tours in Iraq. I know intimately what it's like to have Iranian terrorism kill my friends. So I take a backseat to no one on the issue of Iran. I am as hawkish as anyone. They have been our adversary for 50 years. We need to pressure them, to deter them, to contain them.
Congresswoman Slotkin, next question, and this hits home especially for some of our citizens on the east side of the state. Michigan has one of the largest Arab American populations in the country. Do you believe a ceasefire is possible if either Hamas or Hezbollah has the current political structure and is allowed to remain in charge? You have 60 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, a ceasefire deal has to actually work to get the hostages back, right? They took hostages a year ago. They need to be returned. That has to be a formal part of it. And then they can't be able to project power into the state of Israel, right? We all deeply care about civilian casualties. We have a humanitarian disaster going on in Gaza. But just yesterday, Hamas fired missiles inside of Israel. Hezbollah fired missiles inside of Israel. They have to be able to, you have to understand that a ceasefire deal means that you can't project violence into that state. You can't. So we need a ceasefire deal, but it needs to come at a point where they can't project violence onto this state. Israel has the right to defend itself from that.
Move on to you with the same question, Congressman Rogers. I mean, with this current situation with Hamas and Hezbollah, is it possible to get all of the sides to get to a ceasefire?
Well, you can never go into anything thinking it's never possible. I think a ceasefire could happen today if we could get the hostages out. You can't have a government in Gaza run by Hamas. It's a terrorist organization. They clearly demonstrated who they are. They assassinated hostages in the tunnels along the way. What we have to do now is find that place where we can get those hostages out and then have further dialogue. But the problem is Iran is still coming at us. And so I understand my opponent's notion that there's somehow serving in Iraq gives permission to be wrong in the entire effort toward Iran. Remember, we are engulfed in the Middle East from really bad policy. They are drawing the United States, the Democrats, along with the support of their congressional allies, including my opponent, into a wider conflict. What you see happening, bad decision, bad decision, bad decision.
Congresswoman Slotkin, you have a 30-second rebuttal, and you can address, including the congressman's suggestion that you were wrong.
Sure. Well, I think it's important that we do reflect our records. The congressman was elected for 20 years. He was the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. In the run-up to the Iraq War, there was no greater supporter, there's no greater fist pumper than Mike Rogers in leading us into that war. So if we're talking about why the Middle East the way it is the way it is, we had 20 years embroiled in Iraq, 20 years embroiled in Afghanistan, men and women, Americans dead. To me, you have to be extremely, extremely cautious when you're talking about these issues. And I will not succumb to bellicose talk on that.
Congressman Rogers, you have a 30-second rebuttal, and we've heard a lot of conversations, so wrap this question up.
And why this is a little offensive to me is I had my family in the military during the Iraq buildup. And so I was more cautious than most about us being, using military force within the region. And by the way, that information that was given to Congress was based on the CIA at a time that my opponent was in the CIA doing analytical work. And so if you think about how dangerous this is, and listen, I get it, the CIA has deception training. My opponent clearly went through that. But you're supposed to use that against your adversaries, not Michigan voters.
Moving on to another subject, and that's the economy. This is one that has been really vexing. The latest Wood Emerson College poll says 51% of the voters in Michigan call it their #1 concern because prices are too high. And by the way, this is echoed across the country. People are paying too much for everything from food to gasoline. Congressman Rogers, specifically, if you're elected, what can and what will you do to help bring down prices? You have 60 seconds.
Yeah, I have traveled around the state. I have never seen such hurt in people's families as I have now. Met a young woman who has 4 kids. She works part-time. Her husband works full-time in a small factory in Michigan. In tears, talked about how in the last 2 or 3 days of the month, she has to go to a food pantry to feed her family. This is absolutely unacceptable. And why? They poured money. My opponent voted for all of it. Trillions of dollars of spending that has raised the cost of groceries, raised the cost of gasoline. It has made the average family in Michigan about $12,000 in the hole before they start out with inflationary numbers. And so here's the things that I would do. We have to absolutely become energy independent. I'm for an all of the above policy, but if we don't get gas prices down, we won't get food prices down. There is no sense from buying oil from Venezuela when we have capability here in this country. Regulation has to stop. $1.6 trillion in new regulation coming out of Washington, D.C. And lastly, spending. We have got to get our arms around spending.
Congresswoman Slotkin, you have called yourself Team Normal. You have said that prices are too high, and your priority is tackling inflation. So the same question is, what are you going to do? What can you do to get prices down?
Yeah, it really is the most common issue. Thank you. It really is the most common issue I think anybody hears when they're walking around. I can't go into a grocery store without someone grabbing my arms and telling me I can't afford this, I can't afford summer camp for my kids, I can't afford people are hurting. They feel shame about it. And so for me, there's really 3 things that I've been working on doing that I believe in. Number 1 is bringing supply chains back home from places like China. That includes the 44 manufacturing facilities that are being built right now in the state of Michigan. You need a good job with good benefits. Number 2, it's attacking the primary costs that are just burning a hole in people's pockets. Healthcare, prescription drugs. We finally allowed Medicare to negotiate drug prices. You've got to bring down costs like housing, childcare. And then number 3, you got to keep more money in your pocket that you earn, right? Taxes and tax policy. You got to do things like the Earned Child Tax Credit. Give credit to middle-class families instead of breaks to the ultra-wealthy.
Thank you. Congressman Rogers, you have a 30-second rebuttal, and we're talking about bringing prices down. 30 seconds.
If you want to help the middle class, you don't do it by raising prices. You don't do it by absolutely reckless spending in Washington, D.C. Since my opponent's been elected, we have lost in this state 29,000 manufacturing jobs. I worked in an assembly plant in Michigan. These jobs are critical. The average price of those jobs, the average wage of those 29,000 jobs, $72,000. You cannot continue to say you're for the middle class and eliminate the very ability for people to work into the middle class by these high-paying manufacturing jobs.
Congresswoman Slotkin, same. You have a 30-second rebuttal, and we're talking about the economy.
Yeah, again, this is where it's really important that we have a record, right? It's really important. Mr. Rogers says that he cares about costs. Let's just talk Medicare negotiating drug prices, right? It's the Costco model. You walk into a Costco, you know you're going to get a lower price because you're buying in bulk. Mike Rogers voted 5 times against allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices. VA insurance, military insurance, all are allowed to negotiate drug prices. The Canadians can, but not the Americans. That is just pure, unadulterated greed on behalf of the pharmaceutical industry.
Let's move on. We have seen what has happened with a 50% surge in housing prices from 2012 to 2022. And every year to year, the median housing prices have risen by more than 5.5%. Vice President Kamala Harris proposes a $25,000 program for first-time home buyers, along with tax incentives for builders. So, Congressman Slotkin, should taxpayers be used to help, taxpayers' dollars, I should say, be used to help first-time home buyers? You have 60 seconds.
Yeah, you know, I'd like to see the details of that program, but I can tell you what I do believe in just talking to Michiganders and what has actually worked. Right now, we're helping to build an apartment building in Okemos. It's a public-private partnership, right? It's some public money, but it's a lot of private builder money, and they'll put aside a certain number of units that are for affordable housing. Up north, we're working on workforce housing. If you're a cop, if you're a nurse, if you're a teacher, and you can't afford to live in Traverse City, how do we make sure that you can do your job and actually live not an hour away, but in the community? Public-private partnership again. There's a lot of different ways that we can do it, but it's about increasing the housing stock. We need more houses. We need more production of houses. Again, I'm not sure about the president or the vice president, excuse me, program, because I think, you know, I just haven't looked at the details. I can tell you what I voted on, and it's expanding housing for people who are in the middle class.
Congressman Rogers, you too are going to be getting this question, and the question is, first of all, $25,000 be enough to help somebody buying a first-time home, and should we use federal tax dollars or taxpayers' money to do that?
Well, if you talk to anybody that's in the housing business, they'll tell you by the federal government walking in and plopping down $25,000, you've just increased the cost of housing by about $25,000. It doesn't work. The number one reason people can't afford homes, including in my own family, is the interest rates. So people who want to go move up in a house can't do it because they're at a 3%. And by the way, they're not going out to pay 7 or 8% on a house. Same with new home buyers. They can't make up the difference between what it used to be about 3% just 4 years ago, and now you see those housing rates so expensive. And my opponent has voted 100% with the Biden-Harris agenda, 100%. And if you think about what that means that she's likely to go in and vote for this $25,000 and every other scheme that will only increase the cost of housing. If you want to get to the root of this, we have to stop spending. We have to stop borrowing that money from countries like China, money we don't have, $35 trillion, and start bringing it back under control so we can get interest rates down. That's the number one thing that we can do.
Congresswoman Slotkin, you have 30-second rebuttal, and within that 30 seconds, if you could address the idea if you agree with the concept of using that money for first-time house buying.
Yeah, well, first of all, I just want to correct the record for a second. And it's on the issue of bipartisanship, which I think is really important when you're running to be Michigan senator, right? We're a very purple state, lots of Democrats, lots of Republicans. I was voted the 14th most bipartisan member of Congress out of 435. I voted and split with my party more than 97% of other Democrats, on average a couple times every month. In contrast to Mr. Rogers, who was literally the whip for his party, the guy who got everyone to vote with the Republicans. I believe deeply in bipartisanship, and he's misstating the record.
Congressman Rogers, you can have your 30 seconds rebuttal and comment on what the Congresswoman just said.
Yeah, listen, for the first 3 years, the agenda that brought us high gas prices, high grocery prices, that brought us, your electric bill almost doubling, eggs about a 90% increase in cost, came from that 100% of voting with the Biden-Harris agenda. Now, you can find a vote here and a vote there. I was in Congress, know how that works. When you're talking about the issues that matter, 100%. And so what I think is disingenuous and certainly deceptive is saying that you are you vote against your party, but you vote for all of the things that have raised your prices here at home.
I want to go to our first viewer question, and happy to have this that's dealing with social programs, and happy to have my colleague Amber Kriska here. She has that first question. Amber?
Thanks to Rick. Our first viewer question is from David in Grand Rapids. He wants to know, what will your campaigns do to strengthen Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare?
You heard the question. What would you do to strengthen Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare? Congressman Rogers, you have 60 seconds.
When I was on the day of 9/11, I had a presentation to the Budget Committee, and that presentation was about making sure that Congress didn't continue to take money out of the trust fund to spend on other things. One of the first things we should be doing is protecting the Social Security Trust Fund. Listen, my parents survived on Social Security and Medicare. My in-laws are surviving on Social Security and Medicare now. I know too many people in my family where this is important. I argue the things that we can do to bring down costs, we should bring down costs across the board. Medicare transparency is a big factor here. On Social Security, listen, it's in trouble. The current plan that we see coming out of Washington, D.C. is let it ride until there's a 26% cut. We have to get together in a bipartisan way to stop that from happening. I've seen no action to that end, and it's going to be a really important issue that we protect and preserve Medicare and Social Security.
Congresswoman Slotkin, our viewer wants to know what you will do to protect Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare. You have 60 seconds.
Sure. This is an area where I think we are very different. And again, we both have voting records on this. For me, I believe it is essential, and it's been a very personal issue for me, to have access to health care. I think it's extremely important that if you work your entire life, you have the safety of knowing you're not going to end your life in poverty. I believe in supporting Medicare, supporting Social Security. Mike Rogers voted to either privatize or cut Medicare and Social Security over and over and over again. He voted to raise the age of retirement. It's all in the record. Just check the facts. So it's not about what he's going to do, it's what about he's already done. It is not about the talking points when you're sitting here in front of a TV camera. It's about what you will do and what you have done when you held the seat, when you were in the job. So for me, whether it's allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices so we actually save something from Medicare, whether it's changing retirement as we knew it, redefining it as he proposes, we couldn't be more different on this issue.
Congressman Rogers, you obviously disagree with what Congresswoman Slotkin just said, and you have 30 seconds to rebut.
Dishonest and deceptive. And we've seen that over and over and over again. And on this issue, it is exactly the same. I'm not even sure she could pass the polygraph test in the CIA anymore. When you look at what we have to do to protect it, fear and scare is not going to get it done. Nor did I do the things that she suggested I did. Again, my family, listen, I get it. My opponent came from a very wealthy family. I did not. We came from a middle-class family here in Michigan. We counted on Social Security. We count on Medicare. My father had cancer. I had cancer when I was 19. These issues are big and they're personal, and I will do everything to protect Medicare and Social Security.
Now to you, Congresswoman Slotkin. You have 30 seconds in rebuttal.
Sure. Look, there's no need to throw names around here or yell epithets at each other. We have a record. He voted to raise the retirement age. That's not a fabrication. That's in his record. It's public. I'm not sure he remembers. He's been down in Florida for a few years, but your record when you vote in Congress is public. So we know that you voted to privatize or cut Social Security. We know that you voted 5 times against allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices, like the most simple thing. Just makes sense to the common person. So for me, it's not about throwing names. It's not about deception or mentioning the CIA. It's about what you did when you held the job.
Thank you, both candidates. It's time for you to take a breath and maybe even a drink of water. We're going to take a very quick break. And when we return, we're going to talk about EV battery plants in the state of Michigan on debate night in Michigan. Now back to our questions on debate night in Michigan. And remember, I want you both to know that these next couple of questions are going to deal with the subjects I'm sure that there are divisions on, but I want to try to be as clear and get as much information about how you feel about them as possible. Sales for EVs compared to what had been projected by some auto dealers are just not there. Still, in Michigan, we have plans for 2 EV battery plants, and they continue. We've seen the downsizing of the Blue Oval near Battle Creek, along with a plant proposed near Big Rapids that's been embroiled in controversy. Congresswoman Slotkin, here's the question. Are EV battery plants right for Michigan? And if they are, why are they? You have 60 seconds.
Sure. Look, I don't care what kind of car you want to drive. I don't care if it's a gas-powered car or an EV. I live on a dirt road. I can't have an EV for the foreseeable future. What I do care about is who is going to build the next generation of vehicles, right? Literally, it's either going to be us or China. Right now, China is eating our lunch on these types of vehicles. And Michigan has had the experience of missing these trends, right? In the 70s and 80s, we said, oh, everyone loves their big cars. No one ever is going to buy a little fuel-efficient vehicle. And then the Japanese and the Koreans came in and ate our lunch, and we've never made up that market share. So I do not care what you want to drive, but if the answer is who's going to build them, I want that to be Team America, not Team China. I want Michigan to build them. And to me, I just don't understand this idea of just ceding that ground to China. My opponent is happy to let them eat our lunch in places like Europe and South America. I am not willing to do that. American auto workers are the best, and they should make them.
Congressman Rogers, are EV plants right for Michigan? You have 60 seconds.
You know, I talked to a lot of these auto workers. As I said, I worked on the assembly line in Michigan. And I'll tell you what, they know more than what's coming out of Washington, D.C. 85% of everything that's processed in an electric vehicle has to go through China. Why in God's green earth we would cede that auto market to the Communist Party of China is beyond me. My opponent has multiple times supported EV mandates, trying to pick the cars that our companies have to build and the cars that you're going to have to buy. And by the way, that got us 2,400 layoffs at Stellantis, 1,000 layoffs at General Motors. Ford is talking about closing 2 lines. The CEO of Ford came out and said, this is unworkable. It won't work for America. There's a better way to get where we want to go, like hybrids. By the way, you don't have to plug it in, and you get to keep the auto workers that are here in the state. About 1 million are reliant on building something, a part or something for a gasoline engine. Why we would take 40% of that labor off the table is beyond me.
Congresswoman Slotkin, you have a 30-second rebuttal. I assume there's a lot of things in there.
Yeah, I mean, again, I just don't understand it for someone who claims to care about national security. If you're worried about EVs being built abroad, if you're worried about China having the supply chain, then come back and join us here in Michigan, where we've been trying to bring back our supply chains ever since COVID. We all had our come to Jesus. We all figured out that we had overextended ourselves into China, so we started bringing all kinds of parts back, all kind of mining back, all kinds of things that are important to that supply chain. I am not going to just give it up to China, and my opponent certainly seems to be okay with that.
Congressman Rogers, you have a rebuttal, and again, you all have some real differences here, so you have 30 seconds to try to point out what those are.
And when my opponent talks about bringing things back, she signed a non-disclosure agreement to facilitate a Chinese Communist Party company going up near Big Rapids to bring in Chinese engineers to build a factory that makes components, of which 85% of the components in that battery have to be processed in China. Oh, by the way, when it's fully operating, takes 40% of Michigan auto workers and gets rid of them. why that is a good plan when there are other things we can do. The electric grid isn't even ready to handle it. We got to fix that. We got to make sure that hybrids is an interim step here before we get to the next one. You beat China by selling Americans cars they want to buy.
Congressman, we're out of time. I want to give you 15 seconds. Congressman said you had signed an NDA. This has been a point of contention between the two of you. So my question, 15 seconds, did you sign an NDA?
I have never signed an NDA with any Chinese government, Chinese entity, Chinese company at all. I found out about that plant when it was in the paper. He repeats it. It is a lie. The Detroit News and every other news source credible has said it so. He should stop repeating it.
Thank you.
True.
Congressman Roger, I'm going to let you talk about that, but it's in this next question. You've expressed concern over the potential Goshen ties to the Chinese government. You did that including a rally that was very near the site where that's going to be built or proposed to be built. What evidence do you have? How can you document that Goshen is a Chinese company? And feel free in your 60 seconds to address the conversation we just began.
Sure. And by the way, don't believe me, go to slotkinnda.com. You'll see the signed NDA, number one. Number two, the incorporation papers from this company clearly show it is affiliated and must abide by the Chinese constitution, including their CEO, who is a senior member of the Chinese Communist Party. And we knew this was going to be a problem. Matter of fact, Congresswoman Slotkin's boss, former boss, Leon Panetta, said this will be used for espionage activities. There's no doubt in my mind why they're bringing Chinese engineers on here to Michigan. And if you think that's crazy, the FBI just arrested 5 Chinese nationals spying at Camp Grayling, which is pretty darn close to where this factory is going to be. We need to take a deep breath and step back. Listen, there's a better way to get where people want to go, and it's not trying to bring the Chinese to Michigan, as she has been part and parcel of doing.
Congresswoman Slotkin, do you have any concerns about the appearance of Chinese government involvement in the Goshen plant? And what would you say to the people near where that plant is being proposed who do have concerns? You have 60 seconds.
So again, I've never signed an NDA with any Chinese company, any Chinese government. He repeats it. It's a lie. The old Mike Rogers from 2014 wouldn't be messing around when it comes to national security, but the Mike Rogers of 2024 seems happy to do it. I'm sad about that. But here's the thing. I was the one who wrote the legislation that said we should be able to ban the Chinese from buying our farmland, ban the Chinese from buying our manufacturing facilities. It's bipartisan legislation. I'd love to have his support from it. You shouldn't have these companies buying our manufacturing sites or our farmland without a full national security vetting. This is what I used to do for a living. We passed legislation, or we're working on, passing legislation to do it. This is where I stand on this issue. But the reason why he likes to repeat these lies is because when he left Congress and went to go work as a consultant, he was the chief security officer of AT&T when they were actively working to get Chinese companies into our telecoms. That's literally the same time. So for me, he's trying to distract from his own record of helping the Chinese get into our telecommunication systems.
We could talk about this subject for the rest of the debate. We're not going to, but we are for the next 60 seconds. So you have a 30-second rebuttal followed by your 30-second rebuttal. And Congressman, please go ahead.
So the Congresswoman knows that when I was in the private sector for the last 10 years, basically, I had a security clearance. If I wanted to work for a Chinese company, which I would not, I couldn't do it. So she makes these charges. They're aspersions, and it is unfortunate. And this is the same member of Congress who has been deceiving us on the NDA. I never signed an NDA. Well, we find out she did sign an NDA. She has been involved. She did take money from Chinese agents who were involved in the process of bringing it here.
I just have to respond to this.
30 you have 30 seconds.
What he just said, honestly, is offensive. And again, the Mike Rogers of 2014, the Mike Rogers that people thought they knew, who cared about national security and say it should never, be divisive at the water's edge, is now a completely different guy. To accuse people of these kinds of things, especially a CIA officer, is offensive, and he needs to rethink how badly he wants the seat, how desperate he is to make a move like that.
All right, members, we're going to change the subject, although I know there's a lot of passion on that, and we could go on, but there are other things that we need to discuss. Biden administration announced last week its support for $1.5 billion in federal loan guarantees to restart the Palisade nuclear power plant in Van Buren County. Now, if the Nuclear Regulatory Commission gives the go-ahead, it would be the first restart of a nuclear power plant in U.S. history. Congresswoman Slotkin, do you support the restart of the plant and the use of federal taxpayer dollars for nuclear projects? You have 60 seconds.
I do. I supported actively the restart of the Palisades plant because we're going to need more energy. Everybody knows, because of the phones in their pockets and all the electronics they use, we're going to need more energy as a country, and we need the grid to be updated to deal with that. For that, we need literally an all-of-the-above approach. We need the whole menu. We need nuclear. We need traditional forms of energy, wind, solar, natural gas. We need the whole gambit. And I think, for me, what's most important is to just take a very practical view of this. I worked at the Pentagon. In the Pentagon, we basically mitigate risk by having diversity of sources, right? You never want to be just devoted only to one energy source because, God forbid, something happens and you run out of gas, or you run out of fuel, or whatever. So you have redundancy. And to me, an all-of-the-above approach, including nuclear, is the way to do it.
Congressman Rogers, again, the same question for you, the restart of the plant. Do you support that idea, and do you support using federal dollars for that and for other nuclear projects?
Yeah,
60 seconds.
Absolutely. We're going to have a 57% increase in need off of our electric grid. Everything, from AI operation, which is a big power suck. You're talking cryptocurrency. And if you have any electrification going into the grid by cars, you're going to need a lot more power. Our electric grid can't handle it. Nuclear and small modular nuclear reactors, something I've been working on for a while, is exactly the way to do it. And I just want to say this to my point. I get the huffing at the microphone. If you care about national security, you cannot cede our economic future to the Communist Party of China. And I agree. Well, then you should have acted
in Michigan,
that way.
Man, let's do it.
Absolutely, you should have done it that way. Bringing in the opportunity for Chinese companies to operate here in the United States is, to me, is just you cannot get promoted to the Senate if you don't understand how the Chinese operate.
Congresswoman Slotkin, we have a 30-second rebuttal. I don't think I have to set it up for you. You both have expressed yourselves, so tell me where we are in this.
Yeah, the thing that's tough is that in Washington, in the Armed Services Committee, I'm on the committee. It's one of the most bipartisan committees that still exists. With all the mess that's in Washington, that committee, because it's on national security, it just really remains a bipartisan place. And the most bipartisan issue is China. It's where we work together. It's where we banned things like Huawei. It's where we literally took on the TikTok issue. It is, to me, the most bipartisan thing, and it's just sad that a guy who considers himself a national security guy can't see that we need to work together on this issue, not lie repeatedly. Let's get to work, man.
Congressman Rogers, 30 seconds as we leave this issue.
Yeah, listen, and I will look for every opportunity to be bipartisan. But this is a fundamental flaw in judgment about what the Chinese are doing to us. Intellectual property theft. The fact that they are buying homeland. My opponent's been there 6 years. We haven't seen anything to get done. And so an election year is great. You can be bipartisan in an election year. 100% with the Biden-Slotkin agenda that made energy more expensive. It made groceries more expensive. It made your fact that your kids can't buy a home. Your car payments are high. 23%, by the way, in new repossessions of cars up.
Let's go back to Amber now with another viewer question. And Amber, please take it.
All right, thanks, Rick. In 2022, Michigan voters approved Prop 3, called Reproductive Freedom for All, with a vote of nearly 57%. Bonnie from Dorr asked in part, why do you believe it is okay for the government to interfere in women's reproductive health decisions?
Thank you, Amber. Congressman Rogers, that's Bonnie from Dorr, who says, why do you believe that the government should interfere in women's reproductive health decisions if you do? You have 60 seconds.
Yeah, thanks, Bonnie. Thanks for the question. I think this is the most heart-wrenching a decision a woman will ever have to make. I think those decisions are best made where her doctor is, where her family is, where her faith is. And in 2022, to set aside what was a divisive issue across America, states got to make the determination. The people of Michigan voted overwhelmingly to make abortion legal and a part of the state constitution of Michigan. I will do nothing when I go back to Washington, D.C., to do anything that would change what the Michigan Constitution, voted on by the people of Michigan, have given us that guidance to go back.
Congresswoman Slotkin, same question to you. Do you believe it is okay for the government to interfere in women's decisions about reproductive health? You have 60 seconds.
I believe in a woman's right to choose. I did not support overturning Roe v. Wade. And if a bill came in front of the U.S. Senate to codify Roe, I would vote for it. But I think this is a really important distinction between the two of us. Mike Rogers was 20 years as a legislator. He voted for every single ban, every restriction, every bill that came across his desk to make it harder for a woman and to ban, in some cases, a woman and her right to choose. 56 times in total. We checked the math. To me, every single time he was casting one of those votes, he was saying something very particular. He was saying to women, he does not trust you to make your own decisions about your own family planning, every single time. When it comes to our rights and protecting ourselves, I think it is important that we have someone in the seat who does that. He voted and sponsored bills that would make it impossible to have IVF and contraception. If he does not trust us to protect our own rights, do not trust him.
Congressman, you've got 30 seconds.
Deceive and deception. And it's just been the constant theme of my opponent from the very beginning of this campaign. I have come out and talked about making sure that IVF is available for families so they can grow their families.
Now,
it's a very personal thing for these families, and I support it 100%. What she's saying is, I don't trust you people of Michigan. She wants to go back to Washington, D.C. and put our vote in Michigan at risk with the rest of the country, with states that don't agree with us. I'm telling you that this is such a personal issue, and we've decided. This issue is decided as of 22. I won't go back to Washington and change that decision.
You have 30 seconds.
So I was here in Michigan, and I voted yes on Proposition 3. You were in Florida. You voted in Florida. You weren't here. For some people, this issue is a talking point. He's put his finger in the wind and he says, now I can't win if I don't, look good on this issue. And so he's changed 30 years of being unilaterally pro-life, of never breaking once with his party on this issue, right? So it's not a talking point to women. It is our lives. It's whether we bleed to death in a parking lot. It's who and when gets to decide how we have a family. Do not trust him.
All right, let's get another viewer question from Amber.
All right, thanks, Rick. More than 10 million migrants have crossed the border since 2021 without authorization, according to estimates by the Pew Research Center. Michael from Granville wants to know, what is your plan for these 10 million immigrants?
As we looked at the question from Michael, it makes a point. It took President Biden 3 years to come up with some executive orders, somewhat like Trump era, like Remain in Mexico policy. Congresswoman Slotkin, are you in favor of keeping those kind of executive orders in place? You have 60 seconds.
Yeah, so look, our immigration system is broken. It's been broken for a long time, and what's going on at the southern border, no one is proud of, right? I have someone who has protected the homeland my entire life as a job, as a CIA officer and Pentagon official. Every country in the world has the right to know who's coming in its borders and what they're doing here. In my mind, we absolutely need to do more at the southern border, and we were working on a deal to actually provide more resources to our border agents, deal with that bleeding ulcer that we have down there. To me, if you are not here legally, you should not be here. You should go back to your home country and be removed to your home country. That's why I've done more border legislation than any member of Congress, Democrat or Republican, here in Michigan. It's why we passed a bill to stem fentanyl. But it's also, if I can be honest, to me, part and parcel of a bigger conversation. We need legal vetted immigration. Our farmers need it. Our folks in Mackinac need it for their hotels and their fudge shops. Until we get our immigration system right, we're going to have a bleeding problem at the border.
I'm going to ask you both to stay pretty close on time. We're getting close to the end of this. We have a hard out. Congressman Rogers, to you, former President Trump has called for mass deportation of some of these migrants that we are talking about who entered the U.S. illegally. Is that something you would support, and how would you go about it? You have
I'm very delighted to hear that my opponent has had a conversion about border security. She's been there for 6 years, voted with Biden-Harris 100 of the time,
correct.
including, it is absolutely correct. And here's the thing. You can't vote against the wall. You can't vote against sanctuary cities. You cannot do the things that you've been doing and allowing 10 million people to come into our country. We've spent something like $450 billion on taking care of illegals, room and board and phones and health care. That's enough money to pay for every Michigan teacher and every Michigan state trooper for 15 years. The fentanyl that's coming across the border has killed almost 3,000 Michigan citizens every year. This has been a catastrophe, and we have seen absolutely nothing. Saying you signed a few letters, this is something that should get our blood going for what it is doing to the United States of America. I'm going to go back, and I will fix and secure the border first thing.
Congresswoman Slotkin.
Sure. Look, you,
30 seconds.
Yes, you said that I was proudly part of Team Normal, right? I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. Just be normal, civil, reasonable, get in and solve your differences. We had a negotiation going on that would provide tremendous resources to the border. It was bipartisan. It was exactly what Democrats and Republicans want their leaders to be doing. Sitting in a room, no Twitter, no tweeting. And Mike Rogers and his allies came in and said, no, we'd rather use it as a political talking point in an election year rather than actually deal with our problems. I want to close the border. He wants to keep it open, apparently.
Congress, 30 seconds.
Yeah. So nobody was more bipartisan when I was chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. I know how to put coalitions together to solve big problems. There has been no big problem solved by my opponent in the entire 6 years she's been back in Washington, D.C., number one. The bill that she's talking about had bipartisan opposition. You can't make legal 2 million illegal immigrants every single year. Look at the crime. Look at the problems that it creates. That was not a bill to solve the problem. It was a bill to exasperate and make permanent the problem. It was really a disaster of a bill.
Candidates, it is hard to believe, but we have come to closing statements. First of all, I want to thank you again for being here tonight. I'm going to ask you both to stick to 60 seconds on these because of our timing. We started with you, Congresswoman Slotkin, in order so our candidate doesn't have the first and last word. You'll go with the first closing statement. You have 60 seconds,
Great.
please.
Well, thank you, Rick, and thank you, Wood, for holding a really good debate. I think at the end of the day, the issue comes down to trust. Who do you trust to actually come and talk to you and then go and fight on your behalf in Washington? Fight on behalf of the middle class, of lowering your health care costs, of protecting your rights. It's really that formal question of who do you trust? For me, again, we couldn't be more different on a bunch of issues, but let me just make one particular appeal to the Republicans watching today, like my dad, right? For the Republicans who feel like their party has left them over the last few years. You will always have an open door in my office. You will always have a place at the table because I want to hear from you. I am very transparent. If you come to me with a good idea, if you come to me with pushback, you can prove, your case. I'm going to be open-minded. I'll even change my mind. So if you are wondering where your party has gone, come and vote for someone who actually gives a crap about you, who actually cares about getting something done the way we used to, Democrats and Republicans, civilly and decently.
Congressman Rogers, 60 seconds.
I was a young FBI agent working a sexual trafficking case. A young gal, 15 years old, ran away from home, got spotted by organized crime, recruited. They made her a stone-cold heroin addict within 30 days. We found her 2 years later. She had track marks in her fingers, between her toes. She was in pretty rough shape. She gets in the car, doesn't say a word. She stares out the window for 10 minutes. Never saying a word. And after about 10 minutes, without looking at us, she said, "Do you know why I didn't kill myself?" Why? Because I knew somebody cared enough to come find me. When you look at the problems around this state, families are hurting from the policies that have come out of Washington, D.C. The choice here could not be clearer. Killing jobs or creating jobs. Higher grocery prices, lower grocery prices. This is exactly the kind of choice we're going to have to face. A closed border or a wide open border that brings the problems of the South. Thank you very much. I would appreciate your vote on November 5th. I will have your back come November.
Candidates both, thank you very much. A couple of notes.
Thanks.
I want you to keep in mind that even as we are here tonight, people are voting. So absentee ballots are available, and if people are watching tonight, we encourage you to make a choice and vote. We have no vested interest in how you vote, but we think it's important that you do vote. Early in-person voting will begin on October 26th, and Election Day is November 5th, and we'll see how long it takes to get all the results back. I want to make a personal note to all of the people that helped make this program work for this past hour. I couldn't tell you how many people in and outside of this building have been working nonstop to make it happen. I'm grateful to all of them, as I am grateful to you. Having a politician make a decision to do a debate in the heat of a campaign is not easy. You have other considerations. Sometimes a debate might not be in your best interest. Sometimes you might not have time. You both bothered to do it. We thank you. To all of our viewers tonight, thank you. We urge you to vote. Thanks again for being able to join us for this very special hour, and I hope an informative one. We'll say goodnight from Grand Rapids.